Hello, welcome to this example and guide video for the Magic Circle Ground Effects Unreal Engine plugin. For the example, I'm going to be using Unreal Engine 5.6 and the top-down gameplay template. The first step is just to make sure that you have the plugin enabled. If you don't, enable it and then restart the editor. The first example I'm going to do is just placing the blueprint into the level. If you open your content drawer and browse to your plugins folder, you should see the Magic Circle Ground Effects plugin here, and you can drag this actor into the level and you'll see the effect right away. With the effect selected in the level like this, we can see its initial settings in the details panel on the right hand side. Here we can change the particle system or the shape of the decal. We can set a fade-in duration, a lifespan and a fade-out duration. The fade-out will only occur if a lifespan has been set. Destroy after fade-out will allow this actor to automatically destroy itself when the fade-out duration is completed. Attach to owner will allow you to attach this effect to another actor. We'll use that later. Use virtual ground allows this effect to be visible in the air even if there isn't a nearby surface that a decal would normally be able to project onto. Try to place on ground will allow this effect to automatically try and place itself on a surface. It will look below and above at whatever unit you've set here in the ground trace distance. It will by default automatically trace against world static and world dynamic objects. If you want it to trace against some other type, you can set that here. The effect parameters allow for further customization, as well as animating during runtime, which we'll demonstrate later. You can set the shape particle color, as well as a color that the particles fade to towards the end of their life. You can set a rate in degrees per second that the shape will rotate. You can change how emissive, how glowy the shape is, how visible it is on the floor, and how large it is. This will only scale in the X and Y direction, so it will not increase the depth of the decal. You can change how emissive the particles are, the size of the particles, how frequently they spawn, how long they live, the speed they move, and the particle effector multi is a bit of a wild card, and each effect uses it slightly differently. Next, I'll demonstrate how to spawn the effect somewhere in the world during runtime. And for this, I'm going to borrow a little bit of code that already exists inside the top-down controller provided as part of the top-down template. If you're following along, the function that we're going to modify is move to inside the BP top-down controller. Here you can see where it spawns an existing system, which is the little arrows that appear when you click on the ground. We're going to replace this with our MCGE actor. So we're going to spawn an actor from class, and we're going to set the class to be our MCGE. We're going to create some structures for our initial settings. These are the same settings that we saw on the right-hand panel. So we're going to make the initial settings, and then we're also going to make the effect parameters. Now this effect I only want to last for 1 second before fading out. And I'm going to swap this over from the original. I'm going to use the same location that's been used as from the move to function. And I'm going to set the shape to be some kind of crosshairs. Now we can see when we go to play in the level that the default crosshairs have been replaced by our MCGE system. Next, I'll show you how you can attach this effect to another actor. We're going to use this to create a player marker underneath our BP top-down character. Just like before, we're going to spawn an actor from class. And I'm going to set the class to be our MCGE actor. Instead of making the structures, we can also use existing variables. So I'm going to right click on initial settings and promote that to a variable. See, they now appear in our variable list. And on the right hand side, we can see the same settings that we saw earlier. I'm going to set the spawn transform to be this actors transform. And I'll run this on begin play. In our initial settings, I'm going to pick a design that has a sort of a directionality to it. So I'm going to go with this round pointer 2. I want it to live forever, so a lifespan of 0 is good. I would like it to attach to its owner. In order for this to work, we do need to define the owner on the spawn actor node here. So under owner, I'm just going to assign that as a reference to self. Back in our initial settings, I would like to use virtual ground. That's if the player is standing over an edge or falling, you'll still see the effect. And I also want the effect to try and place itself on the ground. This is so that instead of appearing in the middle of the character, it falls to the character's feet. I'm going to leave my colours and settings and whatnot at default for now. Compile, save, and when we press play on our top-down level, we should see that the player now has a marker below their feet that follows them around. If I stand over the edge a little bit, you can see that the effect still persists even in the air. Next, I'll show you how you can easily animate these effects during runtime using the built-in animate to target parameters function. For that, we'll use our existing player marker and we'll have it animate when we press a button. First thing I want to do is save this as a variable so we can access it later. And call that effect to animate. And we'll simply use a generic key input on number 1 for this case. And I will use a flip-flop so we can bounce back and forth between 2 different values. Now we get our effect to animate, and from there we want the animate to target parameters function. Here we can set a duration for the effect, so I'll set 1 second, and it wants some target parameters. I'm going to make these. This is the same structure that we made earlier as part of our initial settings. These are the effects that are easily animatable backwards and forwards. If it's A, I want it to animate to these new parameters. I'm going to change the color to red. And I'm going to change the scale of the effect to 2. And then when we press the button again, I want it to return back to the original, and we can use the opposite value of A for that. So when I start the level and press the number 1 key, the effect will grow, and if I press it again, the effect will shrink back down. The effect can be interrupted halfway, or it can stay at the full size. Thank you very much for watching my demonstration. Have a nice day.